This program is part of the Cosmic Potato Podcast Network. For more shows like this, visit our website at cosmicpotatonetwork.com.
Watching television, watching television. Watching television, watching television. I need all the image, I need all the sound, I know the info right into my mind.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trial by Pilot. This is the show where we judge an entire series of television and the work of hundreds on one episode. I'm Bill Lynch.
I'm Elizabeth Lynch.
I'm Lauren Reed.
And I'm Susan Shaughnessy.
Oh, at least you guys all have different last names.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like you're all basically the same person.
Yeah.
But good luck trying to tell us apart on this episode today,
I
guys.
should also probably introduce myself as Lauren, a.k.a. Maggie, because that's probably how you guys are going to refer to me.
We're going to call you Maggie.
I'm going to call you Maggie. Yeah.
So it's Maggie Reed.
For both former guests of the
Yes.
pod.
Yep.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, we were here last Christmas.
Yes.
That's right.
Last Christmas.
For Selena?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
last year's Christmas movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Start.
We're two episodes tonight. But we're
Yes.
going to start with...
Our Christmas special will be coming out as a bonus episode. I don't know when. Maybe tomorrow or the day after, before Christmas. So stay tuned for that. But tonight, we are talking about, and just like that, what would you call it? It's not a reboot, like a continuation, basically, right? A continuation of
I
Sex
think
and
they
the
said
City.
the next chapter or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Spin-off?
No, I don't think it's a spin.
No, it's
Not
all
a
the same
spin-off?
characters, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just a continuation of their
I
story.
think, like, on HBO Max, I feel like it said the next chapter or something like that.
Yeah. If you're not familiar, this is a continuation of Sex and the City, which aired until like 2003, I think.
No, I
No?
don't know. My gosh, I think it was longer than that.
Wow, I just assumed that one of you
I
guys...
think it was 94 to 2004, or was it 96 to 2006? It was 10 years.
Then it was until 2006.
The first episode was in 1998.
Never mind.
I don't think it was 10 years, was it?
I thought it came out the same year as
No, I
Friends.
probably should have looked
but-
this up.
It ended in 2004. So it was 6
Right,
years.
so it was only 6 years.
Yeah.
So it ended when I was a freshman in college because that's when Friends ended.
Yeah, 6 seasons.
And I have a memory of that.
And then the first movie came out in like 2008.
Didn't we all go see that together?
We all went and
did,
saw it
yeah.
together.
Not Bill.
Yeah, I'm
I-
not including this.
Yeah. Dressed up. I
Yeah,
wore a
we
dress
dressed
and
up.
teals. Yeah, okay. And I think a lot of the stuff, well, at least like the quote from their vows, we put on our wedding program because we got married that year too. Did you know that?
No.
Ever thine, ever mine, ever,
Ever
ours.
ours. Yeah.
I don't even remember that was on our program, so it's fine with me.
It was like in a, well, nobody saw the freaking
Well,
programs,
you didn't help with the
unfortunately.
programs. I remember that day.
You know, Amy took them home and finished them, and she and her mother finished the programs, and
Oh
they
my
both
gosh.
got injured with the hole puncher.
Oh my God.
All right.
I don't remember.
And then nobody saw that.
Remember she had 5 pages, all different lengths?
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful program.
Oh,
Yeah, it was beautiful.
yes, I do. But, you know, being in the wedding, in the wedding party,
Yeah.
you don't sit there with a program.
No.
That's for like everybody else who doesn't know what's going on, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We had a Rilo Kiley quote on there, too.
We had a Rilo Kiley quote, yeah.
All right. So
Anyway.
it's safe to say the three of you watched this whole series. I never watched any of it. Elizabeth hadn't seen the second movie until yesterday.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday.
Horrible, right?
It happened to be on E, and I was like, oh, I might as well watch this because I feel lost with some, like, things that happen, like what did happen with their relationship. Like, I didn't know where any of it
Almost
stood.
nothing. That movie
Literally
was
nothing
pointless.
happened in that movie.
I actually
It was-
watched these 2 episodes like on Friday night and
Yeah.
then was like, what the heck? It's here on HBO Max. And I watched about, it was 1:15 in the morning. I decided I
God.
needed to go to bed. So I didn't see
Yeah.
much of it. The beginning wasn't too bad, but I didn't get that far in.
No, but it was not good. It was very silly and stupid. But
Awful.
anyway.
So this pilot starts with the 3 protagonists, not including Samantha,
Right.
waiting for a table to get brunch, I guess, which was apparently a thing in the first.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yes, it
Which was
a thing.
apparently a thing, I guess. Okay, yeah.
Something
I
that
did
they
some-
live for.
They basically started brunch.
Oh god. The entire open, though, like most of their conversation was about like where Samantha was, which I thought was weird as like an outsider. Like they're talking about this character who is not on the show anymore. Like, they talked about her quite a bit. And then, they did some like hand waving at the pandemic, like a bunch of comments about.
As if it's over.
And then all this
Right.
happened. And,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, we know the pandemic's going on, but we're not wearing masks during production of this show.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
At one point, one of them says like, "Oh, that reminds me," and I forget who interjects, "to breathe." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I was just about to say that because the pacing and the dialogue of this open air was so fast. Like, they were just trying to like get
Yeah,
stuff
Carrie
out.
said that to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did you guys think about the opening scene? Were you like excited to be back at brunch with them?
I just thought, whoa, that's a lot of talk about Samantha right up front. Like,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I knew that she wasn't coming back, so it wasn't just you feeling that. Obviously, they do have to address that.
Yeah, they had to explain it.
But it was just like in the first 10 seconds, like somebody coming up asking, and then like they were talking about it, and then kept talking about it. And then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's enough now. Like, it doesn't, we all know.
And it
Right.
wasn't just anybody asking about it. It was Bitsy Von Muffling.
who was
Which
never
was-
at brunch?
Never at brunch, and
She
in
wouldn't have been there.
only one episode.
No, she was in more than that.
No.
Yeah, her wedding. They went to her wedding when she married Nathan Lane, remember?
Oh, so maybe it was the episode before that and then her wedding?
Yeah.
Oh, and then she was pregnant like a few
Yeah.
seasons later. Okay. But anyway, it was a weird throwback person to have
Yes,
like
it
right in the
was.
beginning. I don't know if they needed somebody from outside the group like right away, but I guess it was the
It
only
just
way to
felt
bring
like a
up
little
Samantha.
bit forced.
Yeah.
It felt like they had a checklist of like, all right, these are the things people are going to be wondering about. Let's bring it up. And I feel like anyone who is watching this who also watched the show would have just waited patiently until they addressed it, like
Right.
in a normal way. Like,
Yeah.
And it was just weird to be like, oh, she's no longer with us, which is just a dumb.
Well, that was a very
Line.
Charlotte thing to say, though. Like, to try to, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak
It was
around
just a
it.
dumb setup for a
was-
dumb joke.
Yeah.
right.
It was like it was just very forced, and because they knew people were waiting to see what they were going to say, like were they going to kill her off?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
So basically, we're just like catching up with all these characters. Like, we find out that Carrie is doing a podcast, which Miranda makes a rude crack about. Fuck you, Miranda. Podcasts are legitimate.
I know.
Also, Miranda is the one who would absolutely be listening to NPR podcasts every day.
Yes.
She wants to
She
be a
would be
human
listening
rights
to the
activist.
Daily every
Every
day.
day.
Absolutely would be.
Today's episode was devastating, by the way.
I didn't listen.
Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
So Miranda's starting grad school, and she won't dye her hair back to red. It's gray
Yeah.
now. Charlotte's getting ready for her daughter's big piano recital, and there's a bunch of scenes about that later. And like, her other tomboy daughter doesn't like the dress that she got for her. And then Carrie and Miranda leave, and in the next scene on the street, they're talking about Samantha again.
Again!
What is happening?
Yeah.
Which this could have been the only conversation about it.
And it was
Someone
like,
could have mentioned Samantha in passing, and then they could have just had this scene about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
This scene
Now
was,
it seemed like too much.
it wasn't even in passing though. It was like a long conversation about it.
Yeah.
Well, I did take notes last night when I watched it on my second viewing, and I said, too much Samantha talk in the middle, but they had to establish that the friendship was over, but stop beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
Like, that was what and then also, the reason that they gave for them no longer being friends,
Not realistic.
not realistic.
It wasn't realistic at all. And this really bothered me because while Samantha was not like, especially after watching like both movies, but like she's not my favorite character. Like, she's not my favorite person, but do you know what? She is probably like one of the best friend.
Yes.
She's absolutely the best friend.
The reason they
Right.
give in the show is that like their business, like their partnership.
Right, like
Dissolve, like
Samantha's
Carrie
a-
said.
She could PR rep.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they said she had hired Carrie, or Carrie had hired her, and then let her go because of the way the book industry was going. But it's like, yeah, but you've entered all these other industries. That doesn't make sense anyway, because you would need someone doing PR for you anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then
So it was just
she got
a
to
very thin reason.
It was a
Right.
thin reason that I think they were trying to passive aggressively make the whole reason that SJP and Kim Cattrall had a falling out
Right.
is sort of like parallel to that.
Right.
I thought it was more than an ATM to her and like this whole thing, which I just
Well,
like.
yeah, that's
I like Sarah Jessica Parker. I don't know her personally, but like I'm fine. Like I don't like Carrie, but like I'm fine. I don't have like a strong opinion, but like I felt like it was a way for like I think that she in like the public eye is kind of like America's sweetheart. And I don't think that Kim Cattrall is. And so I think she has the upper hand. And I just felt like it was kind of like a shitty way. You didn't have to like,
She's very much a victim.
yeah, like
the
she was
whole
like
thing.
making herself a victim there. And I was just like, just because she was like very straight, you know, she always comes across as like, oh,
I don't know what happened. I
Right.
wish her well. Okay, you
Yeah.
were probably a bitch to her.
and I think like when Kim Cattrall's brother went missing a few
Yeah.
years ago, and she had posted about it on social media, and
Yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker wrote out a comment to her. I'm so sorry, this whole thing. And Kim Cattrall
She
was
was not
like,
having it.
don't talk to me. Basically, like,
Yeah.
so I think it was just
She's like,
kind
when
of like,
will you stop?
yeah, like, so anyway.
I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, there's
So there's definitely some beef there, but it's just like, I just thought that this was a trying to put the blame on her. They were trying to, like,
Yeah.
in a roundabout way, be like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
it's her decision.
Well, and can I make one
Yeah.
other comment? I know you want to. I know you probably want to
We've
move
been
on to
on
the
this
next
one.
point. Yeah.
We're talking about Samantha too much.
So, wait, I'm beating a dead horse.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, no, but to your point about how Samantha was like probably the best friend. I mean, she was the one who would like maybe be like really vehemently like voice her opinion. Like, you know, when she went and helped Aiden pick out the engagement ring, you know, and she really didn't really think that Carrie should be getting married and all that. And that, but you know, she always came through in the end, like in a really
Yeah.
big way. And,
Well, and she didn't judge anyone.
No, she
they were
just-
never ever judged by her ever.
right. So
So-
I just thought this was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then in the next scene, Carrie heads home, and her and Big are in their like fantastic apartment, listening to records, cooking dinner. Basically, at this point in the show, I'm like, this is just showing like how lovey-dovey they are together. Like there was nothing really like plot.
Did you feel
Yeah.
that way? Because I felt like they were
Well,
so awkward together.
That's what what I
yeah.
thought the scene was trying to do.
Felt like they had absolutely no chemistry.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. And their stupid banter was worse than it ever has been
Also
before.
that salmon talk, the sockeye salmon and all that. No, they wanted to
Yeah.
also.
No, sir. You cannot tell me that. I'm like, why does Carrie have to suddenly be a cook now?
I don't think she is, but I think she's showing that, you know, well, she has come a long way from like when her oven had sweaters in it, like
Yeah.
instead
Right.
of, but and I've always, I don't really think that's cute. Like, you know, you don't know how to cook. Like
Yeah.
your oven is, figure it out and like be able to like turn on the oven if you needed to like heat up a pizza, like or
Right.
something like that, you know. But I guess they wanted to show like she's stepping a little bit towards domesticity. Like that was the show of it.
Yeah.
Now that she's super rich and could have a chef, sure.
Right. Yeah, I just feel like, so I've never been like a huge Carrie Big fan, but I do think that there were times where they had scenes like this in his kitchen, because they always kind of had that, you know, they'd hang out at his place and he'd cook for them or whatever. There was more chemistry then. This, I didn't feel it, so I agree with you guys there. I was kind of like, I was waiting to like feel something, and I agree with you, Bill. It was like, literally nothing's happening
Right.
yet. There's not a thing has happened.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
The whole show so
but
far.
to be fair, it's been what, the show ended in 2004. The last movie was in
Yeah,
whatever.
you're right.
We have to catch up. People want
Sure.
to know what's been going on. You've got to like make it at least realistic that like time has passed and here's what. Of course, we want to know what they're up to.
Time
So-
has passed and they're still having stupid surface level conversations about nothing. They're
right.
so cute. I can't
don't
stand their
think that-
conversations together.
Well,
I like
So
the
nothing
vinyl
changed
and
there.
the Todd Rundgren. Even though I'm not a big Todd Rundgren fan, I do like that song, and I
Yeah.
just like thought it was like, oh, I could totally get that like nostalgia of that's taking
Yeah.
Big back to a time. He's older than Carrie.
Yeah.
She's not really into music that much. I don't think she has any appreciation for
No.
like what his appreciation for the vinyl is.
Right. We did have to catch up. Yes, we did. I just think the reason I'm being so nitpicky about it is that even in like the first scenes, I like right away, as much as I wanted to love this show and as much as I loved Sex and the City, I felt like the writing was really, really weak. And I just, I didn't like, there was no Zazazoo. You know what I mean?
Worst catchphrase from Sex and the City. You know, the Zazazoo. No, no one
Nobody
has
says
any idea
that.
what you're talking
Stop
about.
trying to make fetch happen.
Right. Well,
All right.
I think the reason we're being sorry. I think the reason
Listen,
we're being
there's more to complain about.
okay,
Let's-
but the reason we're being so nitpicky is because this series did not have to happen.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
They did not. They don't even have the full cast. So if they're going to have made it happen, it really better be good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go. I think that's like end
Yeah.
of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the next scene, Miranda is at a bar at like 11 o'clock in the morning having a glass of wine before her first class, which she goes to. And then she like, God, this fucking scene.
So bad.
She just has this like painfully long monologue where to this black professor who comes in and she like mistakes for a student, and then she's saying like every like outdated thing you can about like a person with dreadlocks. She calls someone a he who responds with something about their pronouns, and then she just drones on and on as the entire class just watches like dumbfounded as she's just like
Putting her foot in her mouth.
fucking
Yeah.
vomiting all these microaggressions to like everybody in the class, mostly the professor. It was awful. So unrealistic.
Yeah.
The professor was so good, though.
Okay, but Miranda is a very awkward person and has always been.
Okay.
I'm not making excuses for her on this. I mean, I could see why they gave her this kind of a scene because she's awkward.
She tries too
She's
hard.
awkward and she tries too hard and she was doing all these microaggressions when meanwhile she was like, no, that's not what, like, she was...
Yeah, she was trying to correct like the last microaggression,
Correct,
but then she
right,
would like say
right,
another
exactly.
one, and
So,
it just seemed like so over the top, and then it
was.
dragged on for so long.
Yeah, I think I even wrote, like, that was... Miranda has always been awkward, but this was a little over the top. Stop talking. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
stop,
and I
stop
do
talking.
feel like it is like she's always been awkward. I agree with you, but I do think that she's at least self-aware enough to have much earlier been like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down.
And
Okay.
zip it. Yeah.
Like that, I think, is Miranda's response
Yeah.
of like putting her foot in her mouth the first time and like being like, oh shit, okay, sorry, I'm gonna sit down now, okay, and be like
Right.
really awkward that way. But she just said too much, and I felt like it was too much. It was such an awkward scene, and I felt like they were trying so hard to like, let's make sure, like, we've been gone for this long. Let's make sure we understand, that you guys understand that these women are woke and they know
gosh.
They're paying attention.
they're paying attention, they're listening,
Right.
and they
No, they are not part of the problem. Thank you very much.
Right,
They
like-
are trying.
because I think like in the past, and Sex and the City has definitely been like, you know, criticized for like how
Not
problematic and like how
Yeah.
just like it's a show that doesn't age well, and they are trying to like overcorrect for
Yeah.
that, you know. That's what I felt like that scene was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the next scene, we're back with Carrie at her podcast, which is hosted by a gender non-binary person. And it's, you know, mostly about sex and relationships and whatever. Bobby Lee is co-host.
I was like, oh my gosh, Bill's gonna be so excited Bobby Lee is in this.
I think Bobby Lee is very funny.
I feel like Bobby Lee is really good at being a guest on a podcast. It's so good. Like I've seen so many clips of just Bobby Lee sitting on a couch high,
He was-
saying something really funny.
He was born for this role. Yeah.
I have no idea who Bobby Lee is.
Is he a comedian or is he?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah,
he's a
okay.
comedian.
So he does stand up and stuff.
Yeah, he was on I don't even, Mad TV maybe was his like big start.
Oh, really?
Like a very long time ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure I didn't watch
I
that.
might be misspeaking, but yeah, he's been around for a while. And, you know, they talk about public masturbation, and Carrie gets very flustered and again, like painfully awkward on air.
Super awkward.
And then afterward, the host is like, listen, you need to step your pussy up because this is the type of stuff that we're going to talk about sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, she acted like she was like pearl clutching. It's like your
Yeah.
entire column
Right.
was about, you know, she wrote about golden showers, I think. And what so, I mean, she
wrote
wrote
about
sex, and it was like pretty hardcore, I think,
Yeah.
some of it. So it was just so strange that it's like, well, after all this time, you're like, maybe she didn't want to say that personal thing. Well, now
Yeah.
she's married, so it is different. And she is like the, what is it, boring old married lady? Is that what the host said?
Oh, she says, you know, you
Like
can't be
white
labeled as
cisgender.
the uptight cis straight woman. Yeah. But since you guys are guests, I have a question for you based on this podcast that they were. I'm just kidding. No, the
As
pre-production.
Maggie clutches her own pearls.
I'm not talking about this with you.
I mean, if you really want to know.
The thing is like I felt like that kind of like yes, she did have an awkward response to it, but she was joking with them a little bit, and then she was like, "I'd like to buy a vowel." Like I felt like as podcast hosts, they could have read her comfort level there and been like, "All right, let's move on."
Right.
No, they
Rather
weren't
than
giving
making her
her
be
a
like. Hello, this is a sex podcast and you're going to talk about masturbation. Like,
Public masturbation, obviously.
Well,
Answer,
first of all,
please.
Yeah.
When this guy's like, I see people. I'm like, is this a problem? Are people really masturbating on the J train? Like, is this like what is going?
yeah, I think so. I
I
think
guess
people
it's been
really
a long
do.
time since I've taken the
People
subway.
used to masturbate on like the bus back to Ramapo.
Yeah,
That's happened.
Yeah,
Yes, people
I
do that a
commuted,
lot,
and I
Maggie.
didn't. So I'm gonna make. Well, I commuted, and I never saw that happen.
You were too busy talking to people and making friends.
That's absolutely right. I probably was.
They're like, let's stay away from her. She looks.
By the way, the entire time you were talking, that guy was.
That's how you avoid it. You make
Yeah.
friends, and then they're not gonna be like, oh, let me go like jerk off near that
Right, they're
like,
striking
lonely
numbers.
woman standing. Yeah.
So this host also has a button she presses, and it says like "woke moment." Brr, brr, brr. Like,
Yeah. This was too
was all
much. It was
uncomfortable.
too much.
yeah.
It was like.
And she had like, do you
Yeah.
have the line written down that she said? Like she said something to Bobby Lee about like.
It was a whole.
It was a whole mouthful that was so unnatural about like the patriarchy and
Oh.
you know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah. Every line that wasn't about public masturbation was her, like either talking about her own gender.
Them.
Sorry,
Their own, yeah.
their own gender, or something about that, like the patriarchy,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, like just cookie cutter stuff that like we've all been like hearing and taught for
Yeah.
like a decade now. But this show is like trying to catch up, but it's already outdated. I feel like.
And it's not that this podcast wouldn't be talking about it. It's that they wouldn't say all of those same things in one episode.
Right.
And I just felt
Right.
so unnatural.
That's what I was like. Is this
Yeah.
the first episode of this show? Like, why is she taking 4 minutes to introduce herself? Like,
Yeah.
it's so strange.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we go to the piano recital, and the first kid is awful at the piano. This is Charlotte's friend's son, who's a woman
cool
of color.
mom.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
cool mom that Charlotte's like obsessed with.
Yeah, so
Who I also am. And I loved all of her clothes.
Wait, can I
Those were
just say
great.
one thing? Her initials. She said, "Oh, LTW is here." That was her. Those are her
Oh,
initials.
yeah.
So this is just like a throwback, but like those were the call letters for Light FM, New York, the LTW. I'm
my
like,
gosh.
well, this just like ages me a little bit. But no, I think it's still on. It's not like it's still on, but
Yeah.
but I don't listen to the radio like that anymore. So I don't. I just thought that was really funny, and also wait, there was one other thing that when Charlotte comes home and her daughter Lily is there with their bulldog, and she calls him Richard Burton.
Yeah, I caught that.
She says,
What?
"Oh, hi, Richard Burton," because she had
Oh,
Elizabeth
she
Taylor
had
was her
Elizabeth
friend.
Taylor. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't catch on to that right away. Well,
Phil, did you catch that?
I did not catch
Yeah,
that. I must have blinked. So this was actually the scene where I laughed. The only time I laughed during this pilot. was when, this first kid's playing, like everyone's just like, oh boy,
Yeah, he
this
was
is bad.
Yeah.
And they pan over to Steve and he just like casually sits back and takes out his earpiece and he's just like,
Oh,
fine.
he took out his
yeah, because he has hearing
had
aids.
hearing aids.
That was funny.
Can we talk about that?
That was funny.
Suddenly, all the husbands are 90, apparently.
Yeah, they're all as old as Big.
Is hearing loss something that comes with 55? I just
I
didn't
don't know what they were trying to do with
what?
him.
What? They're just trying to be like,
it was-
we're old now.
Also, it was Steve with a Chicago accent.
Well,
and
he's
not
been
Queen.
on Chicago Fire for a few
Well,
years
did he
now.
forget
Isn't
his
that
Queen's
his
accent?
actual accent?
Yeah,
But he abandoned. Yes, I got it.
Yeah, he. How do you sound like live in Brooklyn longer and sound like you're from Chicago more? Like, I don't understand.
Do you guys know that I saw that actor naked?
I did too.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I did, yeah.
Where was I?
when he was publicly masturbating.
He was in Take Me Out on Broadway.
Oh, he was.
And I'm pretty sure, actually,
Maggie's like, that's not where I saw him.
You were-
naked, actually.
He's like, oh, I have a different story.
Oh, sorry.
my story was that I went to see that with Grandma when
No, I did.
No, we all went
did.
together.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
I did.
They liked it so much they went twice and they took it.
We stood in line at TKTS. This is when they took me for
Why am I
for my
remembering
graduation.
this?
Because it's such a good story. This is because
This is my story.
we
Sorry.
stood in line at TKTS. We didn't know what we were gonna see. We didn't know what to see, and we were like, "How about Take Me Out?" And the guy was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna warn you. There's full frontal male nudity in it." And Grandmom goes, "I'm a nurse. Give me the ticket." I'm a nurse. And we got row B, and then we got there, and there was no row A, and we were like, "Oh my god!" We were like front and center.
Wow.
And the first scene is like 12 guys showering on stage.
Well, I do remember that.
Okay.
But I don't know why I thought I went with them, but I did go with a friend. Like,
Okay.
I did go with a friend. I'm remembering who I went with now. And I remember seeing Steve and being like, I feel like I know him from somewhere. And I didn't realize it was Steve from Sex and the City. Like, I remember the actor.
Well, maybe if you looked at his face,
like-
you would recognize him.
I'm like, why do I know him? I didn't go out with him, right? Like,
Him and the lead was the guy who was on an episode of Sex and the
Guys.
City during Fleet Week. I'm sorry, we're talking about. I brought it back.
oh yeah, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
Gotcha.
all right, sorry.
So Charlotte's daughter is up next,
Lily.
and she's incredible. She's doing really well, and the whole thing is interspersed with scenes of Big back at home doing his 1,000th Peloton ride.
With Allegra.
Allegra.
Who
With
he's
Allegra.
having like a digital Peloton affair with.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he goes to take a shower, turns on the water, and he drops his phone and starts to have a heart attack. Clutching his left chest. So Carrie gets back to the apartment. He's still there, sitting in the same place, but is still alive, moving his head around. So she yells, runs over to him, and cradles him as the shower is running on them.
Pushes him into the shower and does not call 911.
Yes, and is embracing him and kissing him, and does it for so long. I think I yelled out. I was like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was ridiculous because he's still alive and responsive
Right.
at this point. And even after I exclaimed it, it still went on for a while after that.
Yeah.
And then the scene ends and she never makes a motion for the phone. That was it. And then for the first time, her voice comes over as a narrator and says, "And just like that, Big died," which is going to be the thing of the show. She's just going to say, "And just like that," every episode.
Yeah. So, all right. We can talk about the second episode a little bit more in our discussion. We don't have to go through it beat
Yeah.
by beat, but
Yeah, it aired at the same time.
yeah. But I'm just curious what your reaction was to Big's death, and did you have a reaction? Did you see it coming? I'm just wondering what you guys
Yeah, as
Think.
soon as the music started and then they showed him on the bike,
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to die, but I knew he was
Yeah.
going to have some kind of episode.
Yeah.
And she had made a comment earlier about his emergency nitroglycerin pill. Well, she talked about some emergency pill, he's had heart problems in the past. And
Right,
he's
right.
gonna he is going to keel over.
That
on
was
his
a
bike.
joke about him killing himself with a nitroglycerin pill.
It was?
Yeah.
Well, because when she, after the masturbation discussion one day, when she went home and she's like, "Oh, do you masturbate?"
Oh,
And
yeah.
then-
Oh, that was
we
totally
like
skipped
an
right
entire-
over that scene.
Yeah, which was also another weird,
terrible
scene.
scene.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh God!"
I'm like, do they have sex? Like, it was so weird the way they were with each other. Like,
Yes.
Oh,
but
it
they've
was
always been
strange.
so weird. They've never had chemistry. They've
Yeah.
always been a bad couple. Anyway.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, I did see it coming. It
Yeah,
just like
I think
they
I saw
did
it.
it very well.
yeah.
And it did make me upset. But I was like, well, no more banter.
What did you think, Maggie?
well. So unfortunately, by accident, like before I even knew we were going to review this, like I was listening to something on like Radio Andy, and like the post of the show was like totally spoiling the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's like, well, I think it's out there, Big died. So like, and I was like, oh my God, dude, it was like yesterday. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even know, like it was Friday morning, I think, or something like that. So I didn't
my
know.
gosh.
So I knew that it was coming. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything about it. And I just like, when you asked about doing that, I was like, all right, I'll watch this and like not be spoiled on anything else.
Yeah.
But so I was anxious about it coming, and I did have like, I was very like, I got a little emotional about it.
Yeah.
Not because I'm so in love with Big, but I just, the whole idea of, your spouse
Yeah.
like suddenly dying like that, or
Yeah.
just having this happen, like it's just, I mean, it's my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, so, I did have a lot of, I was a little emotional about it.
Yeah, and especially because it's mostly your fault because you never called the paramedics.
Well,
like,
correct.
imagine that.
Right.
Yeah,
I-
it was.
I am glad that she didn't come home and just find him dead, even though everything else like what she did go through would be terribly traumatic. Like his text went through to her. I was like, oh God, his text isn't going to come through, or
Yeah.
she's going to go out for a drink. He's going to be there for hours. Like,
Yeah.
either way, it would have been awful. But
Yeah.
So I surprisingly did not have that much of a reaction to it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I saw it coming in that scene, but for whatever reason, I did not get like that emotional about it. And I was texting with one of my friends, and she's like, I'm devastated. I'm not going to watch, like, she's not going to keep watching the show. She's so upset. And she's like, you seem not to be upset. I'm like, I don't know. Like, why am I not upset? Like, yeah, that would also be my worst nightmare. There was just something about it that I felt like there was something about the two of them together as a couple that just really didn't hook me in this. And I'm so far removed. Like, maybe if I had watched, everything all the way through and like gotten more invested in like the Carrie Big thing, then I would have, but I don't know. I think the reason she didn't call 911, I think they were going for like a really romantic, dramatic ending. I think
Right.
they still could have had that with her calling 911.
right.
Like she could have like called 911 and then been
still-
holding him.
Yes.
And
he
they didn't
could
get
have-
there in time.
Right. They didn't get there in time, or she walked out. Like I think they were going for something there, but like where they were just kind of saying like, this is it. Like, this is the end. Like, I just feel like it's just not realistic to me. The first thing she would have done would have been called
Yeah.
911.
It has to be the first thing you do.
Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
So I texted you right after I finished watching it that night, and I
Yeah.
respond, and I really was feeling. I was like, oof. Like
Yeah.
that was how I felt. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like I wasn't expecting that. I don't remember if I texted you after the first episode or the second. I might have been after both.
Oh, okay.
Might have been after I watched the second, but I just here's Carrie is. I don't like Carrie in a relationship. I've never liked her, and I didn't like
Yeah.
her with the Mikhail Baryshnikov. I can't remember. Alex,
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
Alex? I did like Aiden a lot, but Carrie in a relationship is really annoying. She's so much more interesting when she's like on her own.
Yeah.
So I'm actually surprised. I am surprised that they kind of did this like right out of the gate. Like it
Yeah.
was just like, here, let's like throw on all these like things that they've been, all these new things they have to get used to in the last like 20 years. Oh, and like let's also like kill her husband. Like let's
Right.
just start out right out of the gate. It was a lot. I'm happy that they are doing the show. I will
Yeah.
watch it. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna keep
will-
watching
Yeah,
it.
I'll keep watching it. But
I'm gonna keep watching it.
I'm not mad
Well,
at
because
it. I'm just...
I felt like I thought that these first 2 episodes were not great. I was not like super excited about any of the writing. I thought some of the storyline, I mean, in the second episode, the stuff with Miranda and her professor just keeps going and it gets worse. And she keeps every time she's like, is this okay to say? And it's just like, stop,
like, you're
being
being so
that
annoying
woman. Like, she's just really like, and I don't know. I feel like they did a good job of trying to show some growth in the characters. So, like, Carrie's pivoted a little bit. She runs this, like, fashion Instagram account, and
Where she films people on the street without their consent.
Yeah, that's exactly
she's
right.
like, "Ooh, that's a great hat. I mean, that." I'm like, okay, first of all, here's one thing. Here's a criticism I have of this whole storyline, which I don't know how much of a thing they're gonna make it, but it had to be some way of, like, she's not writing this column forever, right? Like, that's not how she's making her money. She would have an assistant running that Instagram account. She would not be running it. Carrie Bradshaw running an Instagram account? No, I mean, whatever. Maybe in the last 20 years she, like, figured out how to use a cell phone. But the last one she had, she threw into the ocean. So, whatever.
I had forgotten that, but...
I didn't really buy that. She would have an assistant. Also, that assistant would be, like, prepping her for the podcast and being like, hey, like,
Well,
maybe
she fired Samantha.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's right. That is true. That is true.
Totally unprepared.
Susan, will you continue to watch?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I watched it twice because the second time was way less awkward than the first time.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because I knew what was going to happen, and, like, I could, rather than paying attention to, like, what they're saying about the story, I could pay attention to, you know, the details, so it seemed a little more relaxed, or maybe I was just more relaxed
Okay.
about it, you know.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was a lot less emotional, like, when I watched it last night again.
Yeah.
I felt nothing.
Really?
I felt nothing.
Yeah.
But the first night,
yeah.
I did. Now, it might have been the triple sunshine that I drank, like, that night as well. But I was really, I felt like the first time I was like, I'm having a lot of feelings about this. And then last night I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah,
okay.
this happened.
It's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not going to cry about this.
It didn't give me the same feeling. It's not the same show as Sex and the City, which is fine because it doesn't have to be, because they're allowed to grow and change. I felt like Miranda's growth made sense to me, probably becoming an alcoholic a little bit right before our eyes.
That was like telegraphed. That was actually like beaten over.
Yeah.
Like beaten over our heads with that.
I thought Smith was going to come back because it said Smith's Bar. It was like Smith's
Oh,
Bar, and
was
I
it?
was like, did Smith open a bar?
Oh my god. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Susan,
I
you're
just
raising
want to
your
say
hand.
really quickly, I don't think Charlotte grew at all.
That's where I was going. That's
not
actually
an
was the
ounce.
next thing I was going to
And
say.
Harry is as annoyingly positive as ever, not helping anything.
Yeah.
And she's a really
I was surprised by that because I think, you know,
overbearing
she's
mother.
like Upper East Side, like socialite. Like, this is the world she'd be in, but she didn't grow anything. Like, I felt like she was like as insecure as ever and just too like perfect and cheery.
we
and
all
like
need to be in
innocent.
florals in a dark auditorium when only one of us is on stage.
She's like, it's the Manhattan School of Music.
I mean,
Right,
most
like
women like
she-
that probably don't grow much.
Well,
Yeah, but she didn't
don't
come
know.
from that. Right?
she was
No,
always
she
like
did.
that.
She was
Oh, no,
always
no,
like-
she was, and she came from that.
Yeah,
But
I think she did come
I
from
thought
it.
that she grew in the sense that I was thinking about this because,
Yeah.
you know, she was insisting on the Oscar de la Renta dresses for the girls, and, like, clearly, like, her one daughter is like, I don't want to wear this dress. And then the daughter did the compromise, and, like, she put the shirt on over,
Yeah.
you know, made it what she wanted it to be. And I don't think, like, I think, you know, Charlotte kind of, like, just, like, went with it because she was like, all right, well, she put
Yeah.
the dress on. That's, I mean, she kind of went with it, and she's.
So they could have had sorry.
No, go ahead.
They could have had a scene. The scene could have been her wanting her to wear the dress, her really not wanting to, and been like, well, why don't you wear it under, like, why don't you pair it with something you want? That would have been growth. But she was like, I don't want to hear it.
But I didn't think she was, like, mean about it. I just thought she was
Not
like
mean about it,
this
but
is
I think she's still too hung up on what a perfect life is supposed to look
Yeah.
like. And I think that Charlotte, if anybody knows that that's not, like,
Life is not perfect.
Like, I don't know. I was just
True, but-
surprised by that. I thought that they would have shown a little bit more maturity. And I felt like she still seemed really immature to me. That being said, the Oscar de la Renta dress for her and for Lily was beautiful. And when she pulled it out of the bag, I was like, Charlotte, she's like 15. What the hell is this
No,
dress?
it was
Oh my
perfect.
God,
It was
she looked
gorgeous.
gorgeous in
It was
it.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh my
Phil,
goodness.
don't you think?
Yeah.
And Charlotte's. So, and I thought, like, all right, so let's go on to that. Let's move on to just, like, this was one question that I had for you guys. So, you know, they always said that they considered New York City as, like, the fifth castmate, like the fifth character.
Okay.
Okay.
I've heard that.
Yeah. It's like the thing everyone says about, which, yes, I think that in the first, in the, like, Sex and the City, absolutely. Like, they showcased a city like no other show had.
Yeah.
Like, it was places, people wanted to go to places because they saw it on Sex and the City, and they really, like, used it. I think that they didn't do that so much here. Maybe they tried a little bit. They showed a few places, but I think that it was just the fashion. I think that this time it was like they were like, that's what I'm here for, because it's so good.
Carrie's
It's so,
funeral
so
dress.
good.
Carrie's funeral dress.
Oh my God, her
my
funeral
God.
look was amazing.
Yeah.
Trying to
A
remember
little
it.
severe, the hair, but
Yeah,
but it was
she
appropriate.
does severe hair.
No, I know
She
her
does that.
Hair color placement is
If anyone could have seen Susan's eye roll.
horrific. Sorry, not a good look.
Yeah.
Anyone can see it. I don't care about her going gray. I
Yeah.
care about where they put it.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Okay.
And I'm trying to
I-
remember her dress. Was it?
Oh, it was like I'm not gonna describe
It was
it well.
fitted. It kind of looked like it could have been like an Oscar de la Renta like 50s. It was like fitted
Bodice and then
bodice,
and it
and
was
then-
a lace on the top of a lace overlay.
Yeah, and it kind of like, I don't know, it was like, it kind of like belled out.
I'll have to watch
You'll
it
have to
again.
look at it. It was beautiful. And the hat, like, I mean, she looked great. I thought that all of the fashion was, you know,
I did not like
beautiful.
the funeral though.
That was the second episode, right?
yeah, it was the second
Second
episode.
episode,
Yeah. Oh, and we didn't even talk about like Brady being old enough to have sex now,
Oh
and
my
just
God.
like always
House.
having sex, and I just,
And she's sex shaming him, and
which like, that's not sex shaming.
he claims that
Yes,
at some point.
right.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there's a difference
Yeah.
between like making out in public and being like, hey, don't make out in a public place.
Right.
At a piano recital.
Piano recital.
Manhattan
At the
School of
Manhattan School of Music. And sex shaming. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's just like what it is to have like Gen X raise Gen Z
Right.
in Brooklyn and try to be like, you know, progressive about it.
Right.
I don't know.
I didn't like the show.
Oh, were you going to talk in this episode, Bill? Because
Yeah, I
we
was
were.
just.
He's been waiting to say that.
I mean, just listen. You guys are all Sex and the City fans. You were going to watch this no matter what the
Yeah.
pilot was like. Probably, it was not a good pilot. Like the
No.
writing was,
It was terrible.
Like the actors, I think were the strong suit. Like they're talented people.
Right.
Everything else I disliked about it. Like the writing was rushed at times, lazy. The only thing I really know, and I read up a bunch after this, is that like the original show was very straight and very white, other than like one of Carrie's gay friends. And like the movies were like so fucking tone deaf.
Yeah.
This show was so transparently trying to correct those things, but it was fucking cringy. Like it made me uncomfortable at times. And every single character, like the three main characters, are all given a woman of color immediately as like their counterpoint.
Right. Which is problematic in itself.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
here's my token, person of color,
Right.
non-binary. Like,
Yes, exactly. And listen, like, I guess it's better to be trying than not trying, but it was so fucking forced down our throats.
Yeah.
it wasn't done well.
Yeah, and it was not done well at all, yeah. And I'm very aware that, like, I am a cisgender straight white dude, so, like, when I have these thoughts, I'm like, is this just my like straight white guy-ness talking. Every review said the exact same thing.
Were they all written by straight white men?
No, they were not.
I'm just kidding.
Allison Herman on The Ringer brought up some really good points. She said she likes like part of the show, which
Yeah.
was like the more interpersonal stuff. But she said everything else, all the side storylines were so offensive.
Yeah.
And it continues in the second episode. Like, I mean, like you said, every fucking scene with Miranda, like there's talk of white savior complex. Every single scene. It was so tiring.
I really liked the professor though.
Yeah, she's really good.
She was really good, and I thought she like handled Miranda really well. I hope that she can stop having to handle her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
pretty good
that's the
commentary
thing.
on like the onus on people of color.
Exactly.
We're like
Right.
carry, and they have to deal with us basically.
Yeah.
And it's like a freaking second
And,
job
like-
sometimes where people are like trying so hard, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was uncomfortable to watch, and it made me certainly not like Miranda as a character.
Right.
Yeah, which is like, I really liked Miranda as a character, and I felt like she would be like the least weird about this kind of thing. But like, I mean, I know she's awkward, but she would like understand it more than anybody else.
Yeah, if you,
Considering that she wasn't. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, if you're interested in the subject matter like she is, this is like dumb jokes you would make in 2005, not in 2021. If
Yeah,
you're like really
yeah.
engrossed in this stuff.
I mean, well, considering the fact that she's going back to school because she wants to be, she gave up corporate law to be a human rights attorney, and she doesn't want to be part of the problem. That whole like ridiculous monologue that was like being said as like somebody loudly started playing the guitar in the subway station. Like, it was just so. She really wanted to be patted on the back about that.
She did.
She really wanted to be patted on the back about like, here, look, I don't want to be part of the problem. I like just like left and went to the border. Is that what she said? I can't remember.
Yeah, the airport.
Oh, the airport, JFK, right? And I was just like, okay, but like you're shouting this on the subway platform to your professor that you just totally embarrassed yourself about, like
Who didn't want to talk to you.
Stop
Right.
talking. And like, stop looking
Tell
for
your therapist.
congratulations.
If you
Or
want to
your
do it,
friends
just
at
go
French.
do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's here to grade you on like the class,
Right.
And not.
But the end of
Everything
that
else.
scene was great though, because they get on the subway and the professor like went to a completely separate car. Like
yeah.
she's just like not putting up with it, not trying to make her feel comfortable about it. Like
Yeah.
I appreciated that. That was really good.
Yeah, that was good.
The thing that I will say did upset me was seeing Stanford, because we all know that he died.
Yeah.
Same.
And he was apparently sick while he was filming
They
this.
didn't know.
They didn't know.
No, I read recently that they didn't even know that he was sick. That I think
But
he was
he
like
knew.
pancreatic. No, he did. But
He
they
knew.
didn't,
But
but
they
they
didn't.
didn't know. When they heard that he
He looked a little
He looked a
sick
little
though. But I
bit,
mean,
yeah,
you could have
different.
been like, oh,
But
he
he
looks a
was
little
also
older.
older, yeah.
right, he's lost weight or whatever, and I didn't like what they did with him. They made him so horrible. Like,
Yeah.
Mean.
he was just being so horrible. And like, first of all, and what, I'm sorry, what is the name of his husband?
Mario.
Well, I know
Oh,
Mario
that's the
in real
actor.
life, yeah.
Anthony.
Anthony, like, he was the one. I mean, they were both like, you know,
kinda switched
unpleasant to
places
each
a
other,
little
but
bit.
it was like, well, here's a character that like really regressed, and
Yeah.
he's not even like nice at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And like,
This is the other thing, Bill, is like those were the two gay characters on the show. One was Charlotte's friend, one was Carrie's friend, and then they got married.
but they hated each other.
They hated each
for
other,
years.
and then
But these are the two gay.
they
like,
kissed on New Year's Eve, and
Yeah.
then in the next movie they were married.
Anyway.
Do you guys think, and just like that, we'll get a second season on HBO Max?
Yeah, I do.
I
Yeah.
hope not.
I don't know.
Even though, because it's going to be too much at some point. Like, it has to end. But I think it's just a limited series.
I think, I
Oh,
don't
really?
think it's going to. I feel like, and I'm okay with that. If they, listen, I haven't lost all hope for this. I mean, the show's
episodes
already
in,
like,
guy.
it's filmed and it's done. So
Right.
it's not like they can like be like, listen to reviews and then like rewrite it. But it's just that like, I think that they want to tell like Carrie's story dating, Carrie's story married, and now like this is like another, I think, another chapter.
Well, you know how Gilmore Girls came back?
Yeah.
But they did a year in the life?
Yeah.
It was like 4 long episodes? Okay, great. It wasn't
Yeah.
another 22 episode season.
Yeah. But I will say that I just think that, yeah, it doesn't need to be that. And I think that if they were going to, like, something dramatic did have to happen. So I do kind of understand why they killed off Big. If they wanted like something, it wasn't interesting. Like their relationship was boring. It was boring in the. Also, I think that I never would have forgiven Big for leaving her at the altar.
Yeah.
I never ever. I mean, there were other things he did unforgivable, but like.
There was her friend,
Whatever.
Susan Sharon.
Oh my God.
Who was like, does anyone remember what an asshole he was to her?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
Susan
Yeah,
Sharon.
that's
Except
what
she
I
says
was
it
thinking.
audibly at the funeral.
yeah, I know. But I did agree. Like,
So if we talk about the second episode, one thing we did not touch on the second episode was the fact that they did, it was this, the sparse, it was very, very plain.
Yeah.
She goes to one funeral home and it's not right. It had those silk covers over the armrest, but then she goes and like there's these beautiful flowers on the casket and she says there's supposed to be no flowers, and then the funeral director comes to her. It says we wanted you to make an informed decision because they were so beautiful, and
They're from Samantha.
and that was another moment that I had.
I did get emotional. I
Yeah.
thought that was really
It was
beautiful
really sweet.
because that is something that Samantha totally would have done.
Again,
Like
the
she's
best friend.
the best friend.
Yes.
So I'm not buying your story.
I'm not talking
but-
to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your husband died.
I'm going to send this to you, and they were of course gorgeous.
They were beautiful.
What, did she write something on a card? Did she write, I'm sorry?
No,
I
Or-
think it just said Samantha on it.
It just
It
said
said love
Samantha.
Love Samantha.
and
Oh, okay.
and they must have cost $1,000. I mean, they were
At least.
at least. It was
Making notes for
that
all of your funerals.
scape.
I
never
do,
no spray of roses.
No.
This was whatever they were.
No baby's breath.
I do think that one thing that was missing from the show was Samantha. I think that there's something, she rounded out the group in a way that like you kind of needed. And so we'll see. Hopefully the other characters that they brought in will kind of help with that. But I
Big
did
secretary.
miss her. A big secretary. She prefers to be called that.
I know.
Would any of you recommend the show to someone that hasn't watched Sex and the City?
No, you'd be
Okay.
completely lost.
Never.
There's no
know what's
point.
going
All
on.
right, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure you're all staying honest.
This is for fans. This is for fans.
Definitely
This
for
is-
fans.
Yeah.
This is like, here, we're going to throw this to you. And like, all our fans are the fans who originally started watching are the same age as we are, right? Like, you didn't start watching this when it was on. I didn't. I know that. But
I did. I think I caught up, and then I finished it when
Yeah.
it was still on.
I think I watched it when I visited Peter in California, and I watched it while he had to go to work.
Oh,
He had all the DVDs.
Oh, yeah. Peter's a big fan. He was living in New York at the time.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I said to Ken, like, last night, I said, oh, do you want to watch this with me? And he was like, absolutely not. Like, no, I'm not a fan of the show. I'm like, didn't you used to watch
Smart
this with me?
man.
He goes, no, I know who the characters are, but I'm not going to watch that with you.
Question: do you think anyone orders Cosmopolitans anymore?
Probably.
I-
And they probably did before that, right?
Yeah, that's just such a time capsule to me as
Right.
like ordering a
They,
Cosmopolitan.
people might
like-
order Cosmopolitans now with no context.
Yeah,
it
just like seems like
Do you think anyone goes to cafeteria anymore? That's the way they used to go to
That's-
brunch all the time.
is that
I
where they
love
were?
that
I used to work
restaurant.
there.
Were they in the show in this time? Was that cafeteria? That
No,
wasn't?
no.
Oh, okay.
No, that was like, it's down in the. It's just like a place it made that, I think it kind of put them on the map.
Yeah.
And they have really good mac and cheese at 2:00 in the morning. It's like a good place.
All right, guys. We are going to wrap this one up.
Really?
Yeah,
How much are you going to edit out?
at least half.
Says that. You never do.
He never does.
If you have suggestions on other shows for us to watch, you can email us at trialbypilot@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at trialbypilot. And please go on to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe to the show, leave a review, and tell a friend. Do you guys have anything to plug before we sign off?
I always forget to plug my Instagram, which is at a peek at my plate, where I post photos of food that I have prepared myself or someone else has prepared for me. So,
Maggie's a really
peek at
good
my
cook.
I don't think you need to say at.
well,
I think
you see, I'm like, as you can see, I'm also I'm very like not a great Instagram user. I thought you were supposed to say at. Not anymore. That was like
The ad
that's
is
like
now assumed.
They all start with that.
You edit that out.
He won't.
Susan, anything?
I have nothing to plug.
No? No good TV shows to plug? What are you watching?
I'm watching Dexter New Blood.
Okay.
Another reboot that I'm happy to see, but I don't need 5 more seasons of it. I'm good for
okay.
1 or 2, and then it can be done.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Oh, thanks to the Beats for providing our theme music.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.